All right, I got a big video for you guys today. There's been a serious accusation against Dana White in the lawsuit that they are dealing with, a really serious one. And you also have to connect that on the same day that you got somebody saying they're not going to rest until they put Dana White in prison. And so we're going to talk about those two things. I'm also going to give you guys an update on the Vince McMahon situation. He's trying to re-implement control over the company and how all that's going to play out. But since I know my audience so well, I'm sure you want to start off with the accusations against Dana and what those are and how we're like talking about jail, how it's connected to Vince McMahon, if at all. And so we'll start right there. And let me just apologize to all of you guys who watched the video that I did on Nina Drama yesterday. Well, apologize to everybody who's new to the channel. And I just want to explain myself very, very quickly. So I could not have gotten more mixed reviews on that video because I recognized that I got nervous about that video getting flagged because they use the term graped and also just like, there's just nasty stuff in that video. And so when I get nervous about considering, okay, like if I'm going to get demonetized, whatever, sometimes I make bad judgment calls when it comes to the structure of the video. So I ended up basically just doing a bunch of outtakes or whatever that I knew that my viewers would think were funny. However, I put the actual threatening messages that she received like 6 minutes into the video, which is absurd. So every single new person who watched it was like, what is wrong with this guy? Just show us the message. I'm an idiot. And again, I apologize, but that's why we're going to go straight into the most important story of a sequence of 5 very important stories. But I'm going to do this one first as an apology because I am an imbecile. Now, nothing makes you feel better than doing something good for people who are challenged, especially the mentally handicapped. And I am one of those people. Oh, you are? So what charities can I look up where you've donated money and your time to? No, I am mentally handicapped. Obviously, based on that video yesterday. I need all the help I can get. So if you want to subscribe to the channel and then like this video, that would be your charitable donation of the day to retards. All right. So the accusations that Dana is facing stem from the class action lawsuit, not just him either. It's going to be the Fertittas that are facing these also. They don't talk about that specifically in this article, but I'll tell you exactly why it's not just Dana for sure, you know, unless these guys are really dumb. But, I doubt that they are. I mean, like the plaintiffs, if they have 5 brain cells to rub together, then they will have gotten where I'm going to get to in this video, and they'll know that these accusations also apply to the Fertittas. So this is the key thing. Okay. Now, as part of the class action lawsuit, which again is based on anti-competitive, basically their argument is that the UFC bought up all of the competition and then locked all the talent into these really long-term contracts, so no one could compete. And no one could go out and see what their market value is. Okay, that is the plaintiff's argument, and I'm going to talk much more about the validity of that argument and UFC's defense against that later in the video. But for now, just so you understand, that's the basis of the class action lawsuit. They call it a monopsony, which means it's not a monopoly, but they are operating in a way where no other companies can compete against them. So the accusations that they've levied against the UFC, which are very serious for the record, is right here. Okay. Leaked and deleted texts, okay? So the leaked part, not very important, right? But the deleted portion is very important. And we're just going to go right down to here where they talk about that. I don't know how this ended up at the end of the article. It's like all this stuff is like, hey, man, Dana said that Scott Coker is a bad promoter. And you're like, all right. And he said he's the one who made Ronda Rousey a star. Can you believe that? You're like, I mean, you know, I guess that's a big story. And then at the very end, they're all, oh, and by the way, let's just read this portion. I don't understand. Whoever wrote this, how could you have put this at the end of the article? Also interesting to the case is how the plaintiffs and their lawyers argue that thousands of relevant text messages from Dana White were allegedly deleted and or not made available to them, despite the order to produce them for the case. Lawyers have pieced up numerous conversations from other executives' devices showing messages from Dana White that weren't on the phones he provided. White said on his deposition that Scott Coker sucks at promoting, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that right there is far and away the most important thing in this entire article. And it is like, look at, this is the end of the article right there. That's it. It's like an afterthought. Dude, bloody elbow guy, are you serious? What they're alleging is that Dana White violated a court order and got rid of evidence. Now, a 10-second break for me to call out Yo Kratom, $60 kilograms. If you buy Kratom in bulk, you will not believe these prices. $60 kilograms, and it's just as high quality as anywhere else. Go check them out, yokratom.com. All the strains gets there in 2 days, just like Amazon. You'll love them. It's the only place that I use, yokratom.com. Like, that is way bigger deal than whether or not Ronda Rousey was made a star by Dana or Scott Coker, okay? Like, that's like a 2 out of 10, and this is like a 10 out of 10 in importance, okay? Now, in terms of how to think through this accusation and how it applies, this is simple. So what they're saying is that when they went through the turned over evidence from other executives' phones, I have, like, just for example's sake, let's say that there was someone named Jerry who works in, talent, right? So Jerry was ordered to turn over all of his devices and communications with Dana White or anybody else in relation to contracts or talent or whatever. He turns over his devices, he turns over his records, and inside of his messages show message from Dana White on October 11th, 2014 that says, we need to make sure this guy understands that we don't need him in order to be successful. For whatever reason, these guys think that is in some way makes them, like, it supports their argument that they're doing anti-competitive practices, which is ridiculous. I just want to keep saying this. Every single thing that I've seen from the UFC when it's like their big gotcha is like 1 + 1 = 2 standard operating procedure negotiations that every single promoter will have messages just like that if someone is a fighter's playing hardball with him. All of them, okay? In the same situation, like, I have not seen one thing where I was like, damn, they're all, so if Nate Diaz is not going to re-sign with us, then we'll put him up against a really tough guy on the prelims in his last fight. And they're like, you see, look at that. They wanted to devalue him. You're like, because they said they'd give him a tough matchup on a prelim? What on earth could be illegal about that? He is saying he wants to leave the organization and go fight for a competitor. What are they supposed to do? Like, put him on the top of the billboard, give him an easy match, make sure he goes out on a knockout so you can go take that value the UFC built for him and go use it against them for a competitor? What the fuck are you talking about? It's the dumbest fucking argument ever. Anyway, and I'm just talking about that one example. But so they go to Jerry's and they see these messages from Dana, and then they go to Dana's devices and Dana's text messages, and they're not there. And so they're like, see, he deleted evidence. Okay, he got rid of evidence. Now, if that's the case, that there are those messages on that side and they're not on Dana's, I don't know. I'm in no position to know how those messages disappeared on the Dana side. What I can say pretty safely, though, is that Dana and these guys are fucking pros. So in the event that they were going to get rid of messages, as an example, you would think that Dana and the Fertittas and the guys who are involved in the really big conversations would be coordinating their devices and text messages so they make sure that they are gone from both sides of the conversation, right? So, like, in the event that they did delete text messages and there's no way to just like recover them any other way, those things are gone. You might be able to find a few with these other people's, but if they're saying that they deleted thousands of text messages, first of all, how do you know that it's thousands? I'm actually curious about that. How do you know that it's thousands of text messages and emails and stuff, Because if you can only see one side of it, I can promise you without any shred of doubt, in the event that they did scrub their messages, they for sure did it on both sides. If you think Dana was just going through the Hunter Campbell ones, he's like, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. He's not talking to Hunter about it, going through Lorenzo, like, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. They're not coordinating. Come on, dude. Okay. I would know to do that on if I had been in Cancun drinking for 7 straight days and I slept 4 hours combined and I woke up the next day, they're all, you got to do this right now. You got 3 hours to scrub your messages. I would immediately go, okay, we got to make sure we got to scrub them on both sides. Okay. So if me at my lowest point ever would know to do that, these guys are stone pros, dude. They would have known to do that. Wait, are you saying that you would have got rid of evidence against a court order? What? You just said that you would get rid of evidence and violate a court order. What? I thought you said you were smart. You got me. I wouldn't do that. You just said you would. No, I'm just saying if I was going to do that, I would have known to do that. You are an unethical person. I'm just kidding. What? Edit that out. Anyway, so I don't know if you can go to the cell phone companies, but here's the deal, dude. If they were able to go to the companies and they were able to get those full transcripts and they could prove that the Fertittas and Dana deleted thousands of text messages, I mean, that might be a big deal. That has nothing to do with the jail time. That basically has nothing to do with anything. And honestly, I would never even talk about this, except that it's right here in front of us. You know what I mean? It's like they're saying that they can prove it. Well, we'll see, because if they can, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? That would be a really, really big deal. Now, I'm going to come back to this story, and we're going to talk about the Ronda Rousey stuff. Ronda Rousey, Scott Coker, etc. But first, I want to go over and tell you what I was talking about when it comes to, we want to put Dana White and the Fertittas in jail.
These texts are regarding former UFC heavyweight Mark Hunt and were obtained by Bloody Elbow through unsealed court documents. A few weeks ago, texts of Dana and Lorenzo discussing John Jones were leaked. These texts were regarding negotiations for a rematch between John and Alexander Gustafsson. John allegedly wanted to fight Daniel Cormier instead. It starts with Dana saying, "What's up with Jones? Did he straighten up or is he still being a scumbag?" Lorenzo replied, "Still a douche, but we're inching closer. Haven't moved on money, but sent the letter with an ultimatum." Dana replied, "Awesome, f*** that punk. He needs to know that we don't need him or he will f*** us over more than he already does."
I just want to stop that real quick. Really quick, I want to stop right there. That right there is another one of the examples where they're like, we need him to know that we don't need him. Okay, that is literally like, hey, we're negotiating. If someone thinks that they need that we need them, then they have us by the balls. It's just a negotiating platform. He needs to know we don't need him. Otherwise, how are we going to negotiate against him? That's all that meant. Let's continue.
Regarding Mark Hunt, these texts are from August of 2014, and it's about a contract dispute with Hunt. Lorenzo told Dana that they haven't resolved their contract dispute. Dana responded, "Okay, yeah, he's a head," and then asked Lorenzo to bury that. According to...
Okay. Bury that fucker. What do you think he said? What do you think he's talking about, you guys? Like, what do you think he's talking about? You think he's talking about like shooting and killing him? Is that really? Oh, here we go. Okay, so yeah, like right here. Like before I even said it, during his deposition, White explains the line just means to sue him. Of course, that's what he means, dude. I've said bury that guy 1,000 times. I've never once meant to like hurt them. Never. Okay, so the meat and bones, though, about him saying that he wants to put them in jail is right here. So you're going to talk about UFC partnering with BKFC. As a matter of fact, we can actually just skip that part because the main takeaway from that, I've talked extensively about what's going on with BKFC and UFC. I cannot stress this enough. The UFC is considering buying BKFC. There is no world where they're going to partner with them. That's not going to happen. If the UFC does anything with BKFC, then they are going to fund and ultimately acquire them, or Dana would or whatever. Like that's... I can't stress enough. There is absolutely no possible way in 1 million years that the UFC does anything with BKFC if it is not leading to an acquisition. Okay. Now, if they say, "Oh, we've decided to partner with BKFC," and that's all you hear, what that means is UFC or Dana or whoever already has money in BKFC to be doing that. Or the partner, the co-promotion is the UFC funding it in exchange for equity in that company. For sure. And Mark Hunt is smart enough to know, that like a part. So what all that comes out of that is Mark Hunt says that's the end of my BKFC options, and that is almost certainly true. But this is the part that I wanted you guys to hear because he's talking about he's only fighting to fund his UFC lawsuit, and then he says things about jail.
Is there a particular reason that you're looking to make a comeback now, Mark? I mean, is it this purely that you've got the itch again, or is there a reason past that of why you want to continue fighting at your age?
Well, I mean, looking at you, you seem like a nice guy, so I'll tell you the truth. The truth is, I have to pay for a lawsuit if it goes to a lawsuit that I pay for, that I don't have the finance for. That is the only reason that I'm fighting at my age, and regardless what people think about it, that is the truth. I have to fight in case this goes to a trial, and I'm not letting these guys get away with it. I want to put these fools in jail, and I want to close their company up. That is the reason why I have to compete at my age. And if I have to fight at my age and get up and do this at my age, you can damn well make sure I'm going to put them in jail.
Now, I'm just going to be totally straight. I have no idea what he is referencing when it comes to putting them in jail. Because as I understand it, the lawsuit that he is talking about is a civil trial related to the antitrust stuff. I don't know, though. Okay? I don't know. He's basically referencing messages that are coming out through the antitrust lawsuit, and he's saying that he's going to use those to put them in jail and shut down the UFC. Okay. Do I think there is a 1% chance that they end up going to jail based on any of the messages that have come out in the class action lawsuit? None. No, I don't. I don't think there's any chance of that whatsoever. I haven't seen anything that's come out that would indicate anything criminal. Literally the only thing, and I don't even know how this works, but is like if they got rid of communications related to the civil case, I don't really know what that is. But Mark Hunt saying he wants to put them in jail from his lawsuit, I don't have a clue what he could be referencing. He might have something that I don't know about, or he might just have like a fundamental misunderstanding of like what would lead to these guys going to jail. Like if he's going after money, then I haven't seen his case. I haven't seen whatever, but him saying that he wants to put them in jail seems extraordinarily unlikely. You know, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, listen, I hate the end of the story for these guys when it sounds like that, you know? Like, I'm only fighting because I need the money to X. I'm 48. I hate that, dude. And any time that a fighter is in that position and says things like that, you will always hear me soften my tone. Even if under normal circumstances, I would be like, this dude is completely fucking delusional, thinking that he's going to send them to jail, which is probably exactly what I would say. But I feel for the guy, dude. I really genuinely do. And I love Mark Hunt. I fucking love that guy. I've been watching him for 20 years more. I've been watching him for over 20 years, you know? So I got nothing negative to say about Mark Hunt whatsoever. The only thing that I would say that could be construed as negative is I think he's out of his mind when it comes to putting Lorenzo and Dana in jail based on messages that are coming out through the class action lawsuit. If he has something else, I mean, of course I would look at whatever he has, but that just seems extraordinarily unlikely. Before we get into the Vince McMahon stuff, I got to say one thing, dude. I got caught up on some stuff related to WWE today where I watched some documentary that it was like the dark side of Vince McMahon. And I was watching it, right? And I was watching through, I guess, what's the right way to put this? Like they were going through a bunch of like storylines from old WWE stuff. And they were like, look at the misogyny. Look at the derogatory way that they showed women. And I'm watching it. And I'm just going to be totally straight with you. I never watched WWE growing up. I never watched WWE, period. I was watching these storylines today and they, you know, they're framing them like, look at this disgusting thing that they did. And every time I watched, I burst out laughing. I was like, oh my God, this is genius. They showed the part where they had like this like 90-year-old grandma who was like arrested. She like, they had her flash her boobs. They had her get pregnant. She's 90. They had her get pregnant. And then they filmed a scene where she's like giving birth and she's like, ugh. And they got doctors and they pull it out and she gives birth to a fucking hand. Like, dude, this is genius. That's hilarious. How is that not funny? They showed one where they had Triple H and God, what was it? Mick Foley? No, not Mick Foley. Oh God, I don't know. Whatever. Like I said, I didn't watch WWE, but this dude and Triple H is like, tell him the truth about the car accident. And the guy's all, I killed my girl that was in the car when I crashed. And he's like, what did they find? What did they find when they did the autopsy? And he's like, no. Triple H thought, they found your sperm inside of her. And they're like, oh. The question is, did you put the sperm in there when she was still alive or after she was dead? I was like, wow. I assumed that's where it's going to end because that's pretty hardcore on its own. And then they're like, so then they filmed Triple H in a fucking funeral home pretending to have sex with a corpse. Like, what, dude? Wow. They had this whole entire storyline where Vince McMahon's daughter is the biggest whore on earth. Okay, like my entire perspective on the storylines in WWE did a complete 180. They're trying to present this as like disgusting. This guy is gross. And I'm watching, I'm like, this guy's a genius. Okay? Like, because listen, what he does when he's not making the stories, it's a completely different thing. What they put in the stories, all I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, if I would have ended up in pro wrestling, I'd be dead. For sure. Because I would have had so much fun doing it. I would have been writing the most insane stuff ever. If seriously, if you put me in a room and you're like, come up with the most insane storyline you can think of, I'm like, what's off the table? They're all, I mean, we just did a storyline where the CEO got his daughter pregnant. They're like, yeah. I'm like, so nothing is too far. No, not a goddamn thing is too far. I'd be like, let's get it, dude. Because I can think of some fucked up shit, man. Some fucked up shit. If like the storyline of, okay, so he killed her in a car accident. And then we'll be like, hey, your sperm was inside of her corpse. I'm like, do not give me this ADD brain free reign with absolutely no rules on the most deranged ideas ever. And the more deranged, the better. I would have been the MVP of that fucking writing room, dude. It probably doesn't sound very good given the context of the story, but I just feel like honesty is the best policy, and so I'm just going to be honest about that. All right, let's move this over to the Vince McMahon side that I wanted to talk about. So Vince McMahon still holds influence in WWE after his resignation. Oh, does he now? McMahon may have a bit of power left. You're all, really? Hey, you know what's hilarious about this is like, are you sure? It's like, nah, he does, man. You're all, are you sure? They're like, yeah. You're like, yeah, no kidding, dude. Obviously, he has influence, dude. It's like, so stupid. So stupid. Jesse, the guy is going to jail, I thought. Right, but also, without even reading this, why don't we just go down to the part where boop, boop, beep, boop, bap, boop. He still owns 10% of the outstanding shares of TKO, man. Do you have any idea how much influence 10% ownership buys you in a publicly traded company? It's like, they're all, yeah, but you know, he did assault those girls. You're like, did he? They're like, well, probably. You're like, maybe, but like, let's just say that he did. Right? Let's say that he did. All right, he did. What's your point? Well, my point is he still owns 10% of the company. So if you know how that all works, he definitely has a lot of influence. So it's a stupid conversation, okay? Stupid conversation. But what I do want to talk about specifically to this, well, I'm just going to read this part to you, and then we're going to move over to this part right here where they connect the two stories, so on. So, oops. All right. So sources say that even while McMahon is no longer an active member of the executive team, he would weigh in on creative decisions, reaching out to employees by email and text with suggestions, while McMahon uses his power as controlling shareholder to reinstall himself. The new TKO is firmly controlled by Endeavor, making it any sort of official comeback unlikely. Just a couple of months after the TKO deal closed last September, McMahon filed with the SEC to sell some $700 million worth of stock in the company, a sizable chunk of his holdings. Now, again, that part is so key, dude. That now you have we have like crystal clarity. That for sure is because these guys knew this. Well, for sure. Did you say for sure? I mean, I don't know. I say things hyperbolically, but I would say I'm pretty confident, given the timing, that they knew that this was coming down the pipe. Like, this is a big scandal. Honestly, I don't even have anything to add to this. I've been talking for all day. I got 2 videos out of this thing now. Bottom line, Vince McMahon is never going to have an executive position in this company again. That's just not going to happen. But what I would like to say is, if you watch this far, I love you guys, and I would love for you guys to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. Thank you guys for the ongoing support. Thank you guys.